Hi, Alex here. Welcome to our first class in the Classical Ashtanga Yoga series. And today we will try to figure out what is Ashtanga Yoga and yoga in general from the perspective of the sage Patanjali. So this system of yoga, which Patanjali called Ashtanga, was introduced by him in the treatise which is called the Yoga Sutras, now known as the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and today it's one of the most authoritative treatises on the theory and practice of yoga. The date of its origin is uncertain, but we could say that it was composed in what is today known as Classical Yoga period, so somewhere between 200 years before Common Era to 400 years after of Common Era. So Patanjali synthesized and organized knowledge about yoga available that day into a complete system, and he called his system Ashtanga Yoga, which is usually translated as the eight-limb path or eightfold path. The word Ashtanga is composed of two words, Ashta and Anga. Ashta is eight and Anga is a part or component. So we could say that this is a system or method that is composed of 8 practices, and each practice helps us to attain the goal of yoga. These Yoga Sutras, there are 196 sutras, and they are divided into 4 chapters or books. One is called Samadhi Pada, the second one Dhyana Pada, then Vibhuti Pada and Kaivalya Pada. So in the first chapter, we get to know what yoga is, and we learn about Samadhi as the main technique of achieving yoga. Then in the second and third chapters, we learn about those 8 limbs or 8 practices that eventually lead to the state of yoga. And these are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama and Pratyahara. These first 5 techniques or practices are called external. So this is kind of a preparation for the inner practice. And the remaining 3 practices, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, I explained in the 3rd chapter of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And finally, in the last chapter, we learn about fruits of yoga. So what it gives us, right? I think we will start with what yoga is, with the purpose of this practice. Because this is how Patanjali begins his treatise. And this is very important, just to know where you're going, right? So if you want to go somewhere, you need to know where it is, because otherwise you'll be just drifting, going in circles, and probably will not achieve the goal. So we need to know what it is, and right in the beginning, right in this first sutras, we find out what yoga is and what the purpose of yoga is. I'll be using translation and commentary of Nicholas Sutton in this series, and I believe this is one of the best translations to begin with. There are deeper explanations that are much more complex than this one. So I usually suggest to begin with this translation. So the first sutra says, here is the teaching on yoga, or so now yoga. And then we find this definition, which is yoga, Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. And this definition is considered as classical definition of yoga. So let's see into those words and what they mean to find out what yoga is in its essence. So Nirodha is slowing down or inhibiting or stilling or maybe ceasing, if you like. Vrittis are movements or fluctuations. Chitta is consciousness or individual mind. So yoga is defined as the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind, or as a restriction of the movements of the mind. And what goes next is the fruit, what will happen. So once our mind is stilled and it is not fluctuating, it is not creating those stories, those illusions, then the essence of what we are, or the reality, becomes apparent. So we're able to see what we really are, what's really going on here, beyond those conditionings of the mind, right? So yogis realize that when our mind is active, we disconnect from that true essence, or as they said, true self, that is always there. However, it is overlooked because mind is always active, mind is always distracted by many things that are happening around us. So when we slow down those fluctuations of the mind, when we make it still, in this stillness, in this silence, the true self appears. Yeah, we can experience what we really are only when mind is still. So this is what Yoga Sutra says. Yoga is the restriction of the movements of the mind. When this is achieved, the true self comes to exist in terms of its true identity. Or as other translation says, the true self resides in its own true nature. Otherwise, the self assumes the identity dictated by the movements of the mind. So when mind is active, mind starts kind of telling you, you're this, you're that. Yeah, being confused and blinded by the senses. When we trust in what we see and we believe what we see to be real, we're easily confused and blinded by what we see. So the mind starts thinking that this seen reality is real. Like when we sleep and we see a dream, usually we're not able to realize that it's just a dream. And we're involved in all those things that are happening, thinking they're real. And only when we wake up, we realize that that was a dream. So, same thing here. Once mind becomes active, it creates this illusion of reality. And the only way to experience reality beyond this creation of the mind is to practice Ashtanga Yoga. So those 8 practices, they help to achieve this stillness. And they are all very effective. So Patanjali took the most effective techniques that were known that day, and compiled them, organized them into this system that he introduced in his text. Swami Vivekananda, one of the students of great mystic and yogi Ramakrishna, explaining this definition, gave this analogy that we could compare the true self with the bottom of the lake. And this bottom is covered by water. So when there are ripples on the surface of the lake, when there are waves, or when this water is impure, muddy, we can't see the bottom. We're not aware of its presence. So if we are able to remove those ripples, to make water still and pure, then we're able to look through and see the bottom. Then even if there are waves again, we will already know that it's there. We will be confident. We can step into water knowing that there is this bottom. So same here, same in yoga. When we've never experienced that true self, our essence, nature, then we get lots of worries, anxieties, fears, doubts, and regrets in life. This is why this state of ignorance is believed to be the root cause of all suffering. When we're not connected, when we're not aware of that true self, we feel this uncertainty. Something happens and we overreact. We don't really know, we're not really sure about our decisions, or even if we're sure, sometimes we find out that these were wrong decisions. So all this uncertainty and all this inner suffering is created by the mind. Here we are advised to master our minds, to discipline our minds. And if we want to know, to find out what we really are, we can seize those fluctuations. We can achieve stillness, and in this stillness we can experience truth, or our true nature. The main technique which is used here is concentration. So applying those practices, we learn to focus, to concentrate, and through concentration, mind becomes still. So instead of always moving and fluctuating, we direct our attention to one thing. And this, what it is, meditation from a yogi's perspective. So the ultimate state of this concentration is called Samadhi. And in this ultimate state, we can experience yoga or self-realization. So what are those practices that eventually lead to self-realization? So the first one is called Yama. And during this course, during this series, we will be taking all those practices one by one and understand them, and then practice them, so to see how this Ashtanga Yoga works. The first one is called Yama, and it is usually translated as restrictions. So in the beginning, we need to somehow discipline our mind and then we can work with it. Yeah, so it is done through Yama and also Niyama, which are observances, some beneficial habits that provide ground for future practices. Then goes Asana, which means sitting posture. So nowadays this word is also applied when we talk about those asanas that we use in Hatha Yoga and in Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. However, this original meaning was the sitting posture that we use for meditation and concentration. Then goes Pranayama, which means breath restraint or breath control, because yogis found out that our mind is linked to our breath and linked to the flow of prana within ourselves. So if we slow down the flow of prana, then mind also slows down and we're able to tap into the stillness. Yeah, so it's kind of a supporting technique. All these practices are supporting our concentration, supporting meditation to help us to get deeper into this stillness. Then goes Pratyahara, which is withdrawal of the senses. So once our body is still through asana and our prana flow is still through pranayama, then our senses are still very active, distracting us. Yeah, there are sounds, there are some visions, there are smells, or maybe taste, or maybe sense of touch. So all those things distract our mind. And we get control over our senses through pratyahara, which means withdrawal of the senses. And this is how we prepare ourselves for deep inner work, yeah, which is composed of 3 internal practices. Dharana, which means concentration. Then Dhyana, which means meditation. And Samadhi, which can be translated as absorption or connection. So in our future classes, we will see into all of them. Yeah, we will try to practice them and to integrate this knowledge into our day-to-day life and into our practice on the mat. Thank you very much for your presence, for your interest, and I hope to see you soon in our future classes.